Hi, my name is Caitlin and I'm a facilitator with Bella. In this tutorial, I will walk you through the process for completing the monthly direct funding financial report for agents doing direct funding standard under individualized funding. After entering the website URL for the direct funding financial report, you will find this screen, which is where you will enter your personal information, starting with the contract number, which can be found on your direct funding standard agreement. Under individual information, you will enter the name of the individual for whom the supports are for, as well as their Paris ID number, which can also be found on the direct funding standard agreement. The reporting individual is the agent, the person who is managing the funds and actually filing the report. After entering name and email address, you can click Continue to move to the next page. The second page is where you will enter your opening and closing balance for the bank accounts you are using for the CLBC funds. If you are receiving paper statements, request that your bank puts out your statement starting on the first of the month and ending with the last day of the month. For this tutorial, I will be using simple numbers to demonstrate how to use the form. The actual numbers you use will depend upon your personal bank account activity. The opening balance date will be the first day of the month for which you are reporting. In this tutorial, I will be using the month of December as an example, so we'll choose December 1st as my opening balance date. The opening balance amount is the amount of money that is in your account as of the first of the month prior to any transactions occurring. If you have a transaction that occurs on the first of the month, such as bank fees, ensure that you take the balance of the account prior to that first transaction. The closing balance date will be the last day of the month for which the report is being filed, in this case, December 31st. The closing balance amount will be the total amount of money in the account after the final transaction occurs within the month. The third page is where you will start to break down your bank account activity into further detail. At the top of this page, you will notice the information you filled out from the previous page regarding opening and closing balances. Now, you will go through your bank statement starting with the first transaction that occurs within the month for which the report is being filed. First, enter the date of the transaction. You will notice that when you click on the calendar icon beside the date box, it brings up the current month rather than the month for which the report is being filed. Ensure that the date that you enter occurs within the month for which reporting is being done. For each transaction, you will then have to choose a transaction type, either credit/deposit for anything coming into the account, or debit/expense for anything going out of the account. Under Amount, you will choose the specific amount for which each transaction was for. If the transaction was an expense, you do not need to do anything else on this page for that transaction. If it was a deposit, however, you must choose which type of deposit it was from the drop-down menu under Type of Deposit. Once you have completed an entry for each transaction that occurred within the month, you will then notice at the bottom of the screen that there is a total credits, total debits, and calculated closing balance. You must ensure that the calculated closing balance here matches the calculated closing balance at the top of the page in order to continue. Sometimes, if you have finished filling out the information for your last transaction but have not clicked outside the box, the calculations will be off. Simply click anywhere on the page for the total to appear. If you have done this and your closing balances still do not match, you may need to go back through your transactions to ensure you have entered all of your numbers correctly. On this page, you will elaborate on all the expense transactions you entered on the previous page. You will notice that the form has already broken down each transaction for you to show you the date it occurred and the amount it was for. You will then need to choose a type of expense from the drop-down menu depending upon what the payment was for. In some instances, you will have multiple types of expenses under one transaction, such as when you have a combined payment of payroll along with accounting fees from your payroll company. Make sure that you break out each of these expenses separately. Under Detail Amount, you will put the amount for which the transaction was for. If all of the payment was to one source, you will put the entire amount in this box. If you have a case where there are multiple types of expenses under one transaction, simply break them out into their respective parts. Under expense category, this is sometimes automatically filled in depending upon what you chose under type of expense. If it is not, you can choose the category using the drop-down menu. For some transactions, you will also need to enter a description of what the payment was for. If this box is yellow, you do not need to put in any further information. If it is white, you can add your description, but keep in mind it only allows a certain number of characters, so it must be relatively short. Once you have repeated this process for each of your transactions, you are ready to submit your report. Because this is an example using fictitious numbers and information, I am unable to actually click Submit. After clicking Submit, you will see a new screen with a confirmation number, and you should also receive a confirmation email from CLBC. We recommend that you print this page for your records. Hopefully this tutorial has given you a clearer idea of how to fill in the direct funding financial report. If you need further assistance, you may contact us at fellacanada.org or by phone at 604-575-2588. Don't forget to like us on Facebook for other helpful videos and tips.